Once upon a time in Moggs Creek, a young boy stood on a milk crate, squinting through the fences at Kardinia Park, eyes wide, heart pounding, watching the mighty Geelong Cats carve through the turf. That boy was Patrick Dangerfield, and now, 35 years old and battle-hardened, he's set to run out for his 350th AFL game, not as a distant dreamer, but as a once-in-a-generation unicorn who redefined what it meant to wear the blue and white hoops. From the wide-open spaces of Adelaide to the soul of Geelong, Dangerfield's journey has been nothing short of mythic. 154 games with the Crows were filled with moments of explosive brilliance, but home, real home, was always calling. And when he finally returned, it wasn't just for him. It was for the club that raised him in spirit, the community that believed in his dream, and the legacy he wanted to etch in stone. 8 All-Australian jumpers. A Brownlow medal that crowned a season of dominance in 2016. 3 club best and fairests. And finally, that golden 2022 premiership, the first Cats flag in over a decade, a moment soaked in sweat, belief, and destiny. But perhaps no accolade does justice to the deeper story of a man who walked into a club at a tipping point, looked around at aging champions and rising kids, and quietly decided to carry the weight of expectation on his own mighty shoulders. Chris Scott remembers it all. He remembers the whispers, the ticking clock on the Cats' premiership window, the doubts from outside, the tension in the hallways. "We weren't quite at the crossroads," Scott said, "but we were testing the limits." And then Danger walked in, a cyclone of power, charisma, and conviction. No single man wins flags alone. But some shift tectonic plates. And Dangerfield did just that. He was the tide that lifted every boat. On the field, he was mayhem in motion, a midfield bull with the grace of a gazelle, slicing through packs, shoving aside giants, turning moments into memories. Off the field, he was a compass, guiding young draftees, challenging club standards, standing tall as AFLPA president, negotiating in high places, and never forgetting the young bloke from the coast who just loved footy. At Kardinia Park, he became more than a player. He became a symbol. He joined the legends, Ablett Jr., Selwood, Hawkins, in the immortal 350 club. A quiet nod to the culture of Geelong, where excellence isn't just expected, it's nurtured. Where players don't just survive, they thrive. And in the twilight of his career, as the engine roared slightly less and the instincts grew sharper, Dangerfield embraced transformation once again. From midfield maestro to commanding forward presence, he reinvented himself, just as the greats always do. Still decisive, still dominant, only now with a grin that says, "I've seen it all, and I still love it." There's a raw truth in the way he speaks now. There's no forced bravado, no pretentiousness. Just honesty, the kind that comes from 18 seasons of bruises, victories, heartbreaks, and love. "I'm loving the game as much as I ever have," he says. And you believe it. Because love is what brought him here in the first place. Love for the game. Love for his club. Love for the chance to inspire just one more kid standing on a milk crate, hoping to be like Danger. There's poetry in the fact that he never chased the limelight, it followed him. Because greatness doesn't need to shout. It just plays the game harder, smarter, and with more heart than anyone else. And Dangerfield has always played with heart. Whether he was breaking lines at the MCG or giving advice to a nervous 18-year-old, he was always giving, always leading. He played through pain. He played through doubt. He played when it would have been easier to rest. And, still, he smiled. Because for Patrick, footy was never a job. It was a calling, a responsibility, a joy. He knows the body has its limits. He knows the end comes for every player, no matter how mighty. But he isn't afraid of it. He looks forward with clarity, with peace. He plays now not for records, but for love, of the jumper, of the teammates, of the moments still to come. Geelong gave him a place to belong. He gave Geelong a reason to believe again. And in doing so, Patrick Dangerfield etched himself into the very soul of the club. He is the player who changed their fortunes. He is the voice in the locker room that steadies the storm. He is the quiet hand on a rookie's shoulder, the fierce fist in a contested pack, the broad grin after a win, the reflective eyes after a loss. He is the mentor, the warrior, the legend. And now, as the crowd rises one more time, the sun setting behind Kardinia Park, Patrick Dangerfield steps onto the field, not as the boy from the stands, but as the giant on the ground. For 350 games, he has carried the torch. And the flame still burns bright.